Hey, everybody. Welcome to the COVID Bourbon Media Videocast for this evening. I am your host here for this videocast. This is good old boy Mike from Sips, Suds, and Smokes. Joining me tonight is, do I call you Esteem Media or do I just flip a coin?
Flip a coin.
Flip a coin.
Nothing esteemed here.
Well, I have some good friends joining me and the dog.
And the dog. Olivia says hi.
Oh, hey, Olivia. Sorry, I didn't recognize you at that point. Joining me from ModernThrist is Bill.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
From Bourbon Banter, the one and only Pops is joining us tonight.
Good evening, everyone.
From Smoky Beast and the Beastmaster Club is the Beast himself, joining us from his bunker in Massachusetts.
Cheers, everybody.
From Whiskeyfellow, we have Jeff joining us.
Cheers, y'all.
And from Straight Up 615, my colleague every day who makes sure that I stay in plenty of trouble is good old gal Carrie Ann.
I put on a bra for this.
Me too.
You know, I had a small number of choices about how that was going to go. That was none on the list. So there you go. I don't know if I feel relieved or not quite sure.
Can I say one thing?
It's a big
Can
day.
I say one thing?
It's a big day over here.
You want to go put your bra on, Jeff?
No, I think I'm in love.
Well, we're really from a broad range of media groups. Some of us are in print, some of us are online, some of us are on podcasts, some of us on YouTubes. And, I really just love getting together with like-minded individuals and how are we kind of, coping and getting through all of this. Want to thank those viewers that are joining us tonight. Be sure and join us in the chat room and just say hello. And if you have some questions for our panel while we're going through tonight, just put those up there. Yes, you can make fun of people that are not here that bailed on us, but I won't name names. Fred, sorry. But anyway, we did have some other folks lined up, and I'm sorry, but unfortunately, did have some schedule conflicts. And but we'll see if we can get together, another time with those folks. But be sure, definitely wear out the chat session tonight, and we'll be checking that out as we're going along here as well. So, I have interesting outline for us to go through. I think probably the biggest question that I find myself saying, what have you been doing with all this free time? I've not had this much free time in forever, and I just find myself getting to a whole bunch of things. So, what are you doing with all this free time?
Free time?
Yeah.
Well, I've been working from home, which is kind of difficult when you have to distance learn your kids. One thing I have learned is that teachers should make especially kindergarten teachers, about $1 million a year. I don't know how they do it. I can't handle it.
So you're a kid still.
It's all my fault. It's all my fault.
So I recently learned that I have 30 windows on my first floor, and I cleaned them all. So I'm learning that more is not better, and that I do have muscles that I have not used in a very long time.
So were you counting in advance to try and make sure that you took a full inventory of the task before you began?
No,
or you were just keeping track as you went along?
It was for afterwards, so I could have bragging rights about how hard I worked.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So may all your 30 windows be clean once again.
That's right. At least until it rains again.
You get a free t-shirt on the 35th one. Beast, what have you been doing in the middle of all this free time? Now that you bugged out to Massachusetts, I mean, you're in the land of righteous beer for sure. So, at least there's that.
I've been doing my fair share of drinking. I definitely hear the remote schooling thing. My girl's in 3rd grade, and so I still have a day job full time and have to have her in the remote school. So I've been going to sleep about like 8:45 every night, exhausted.
Wow.
But I got a pool table downstairs. I got about 30 cases of whiskey that I have to go through, and I got a new grill, so I've been cooking and making the most of it. Nice
whiskey.
That's
not even your main location. You just keep that on at the spare location at the vacation place.
That's where I am. Yeah, this is the bunker.
Wow.
Every time we do a barrel, we get a case. And
I only keep
in
8 cases, at my vacation place. So there you go. Jeff, what have you been doing
brother?
What have you been doing with all this free time, man?
I wish I had a whole lot of free time, but what I've been doing is I've got a notebook full of tasting notes that I'm finally typing up and getting them ready to get out.
Yeah. I was just wondering if some of us were going to get around to, the work at hand, talking about bourbon and actually putting a little bit more thought and planning behind some things. So how about it, Carrie Ann? What have you been doing with all this free time? I know you've been baking.
You guys have been way more productive than me. Yeah, I've been cooking a lot.
She put on a bra.
Ordering groceries. I put on a bra. That was amazing. 10 minutes ago, though. I don't know. I've really kind of fallen prey to the side of this, the light side, but I haven't been as productive as I would think I would be if I just suddenly had 2-3 weeks on my hands. But I've been cooking a whole lot, and I'm learning to make bread, so that's exciting. I weeded my garden today.
Well, the sun came out. We're both in Nashville, Carrie.
The sun came out.
So yeah, the sun came out. It's the second time in like over the last 10-day period. So the only thing
the sun came out in Nashville, and you two were the ones in like a cave.
Well,
no, seriously, today's the 8th day that we've had sun in 2020.
Yep. All I have to say is that
the whole year
I struggle to grow grass effectively, and this has been like the perfect weather for me to finally tackle my lawn. So there's that. There are a lot of things that I really suck at in life, and that is probably in the top 3 is growing effective lawn. I don't know what it is with me. I should clean windows like Pops.
There you go.
What's going on over there?
Don't I have people for this?
marshmallow?
I know I have people. I write them checks. I know these things. So.
The offshoot benefit of that window plan was about 2 weeks before we got locked in, I bought like 30 rolls of paper towels. So whatever's left, if I have to, I just cut them in thirds, and I've got extra toilet paper.
You got backups.
I got backup. It'll be rough, but
so
that's where they all went.
Were you staring at the paper towels and then at the windows and going, I should do something to bring these two things together? Or were you staring at the windows and going, I really should clean these, but if I only had the proper tools? Oh, yes, I do. They're right over here.
It was a 2-year thought process.
Oh, I see. You paced yourself. I like that.
Yeah, I paced myself.
2 years, pandemic's gonna hit, so I better have window cleaning
I
shit.
sit in the sunroom, I drink a glass of whiskey, and I'm like, oh, that's really dirty over there. My glass is so clean. I should get to that. And I put it off, and then finally I was like, oh, it's going to be spring. We'll do some window cleaning. Got them, and then quarantined. So, got to it.
Look at he's even getting the roaster out. Is that like an official marshmallow roaster? Look at this. This is like we need like theme music behind the beast. I mean, seriously, all I hear is like a Glenn Campbell song, in the background, something like that. So, well, I have been working on content for the show. I had a backlog of a lot of 20-minute episodes, which, we find it really difficult, to try and get to all the content that we'd like to with the amount of time we have. And, since our audience has such a broad, geography, it's talking about things that people can find always. I mean, it's just, we always dealing with, distribution elements, and we struggled, even with even with Bill and Fourgate, and Fourgate is, I don't know if it's currently distributed, but I know he started in Tennessee and in Kentucky only. And, we talk about that product, and I hear from the people in Oregon, they go, we don't get it, man, And so it's always one of those things that we struggle. And so we created kind of these online episodes instead of those, being on the radio show as well. And I had a backlog of like 12 of these.
Plenty of bourbon that we can't get readily, whether it's distributed in your state or not. So I think that's a bunch of BS. Because there's a problem with you guys being like, look what we have, nobody else can get it. So they don't like it in Oregon. They don't get
there's one of the children.
Say hi, Lily.
Right as I'm cussing, sorry. Hope she can't hear.
I agree. Certainly, we've had a 1-2 punch here in Nashville with, the tornadoes coming through.
Bill Scott.
Yep. So I checked in with a good friend that's been on the show with us as well, that has a distributor here in town that got hit really hard, and they're actually kind of it's been a breather for them that they've not had to kind of bounce back in the pace that they needed to, just from the storm damage itself. So it's been an interesting moment for them to kind of deal with a lot of this all at the same time, and a lot of businesses here in Nashville. So I think a lot of them are like, wow, okay, so the world is not going to go at Mach 2. I can deal with this maybe at a slower pace. And I've heard that from a number of people. So, well, it has been fun, kind of catching up with both with content production planning, as well as, just kind of mowing through a backlog of a lot of samples and stuff. So I have to say that I finally got through all the Texas whiskey samples that I have. And I have exactly the same conclusion I had walking into it. So there's that.
Really feel, Mike?
Yeah. All right. Let's see. It was exactly the same as what I thought going into it. So yeah, there's a lot of people, they need to think about a new day job. That's all I got to say. So
I don't know that my issue with a lot of the stuff coming out of Texas and those places, it's not so much that they can't make good whiskey. Stop trying to make bourbon like Kentucky bourbon or Tennessee bourbon.
It doesn't age the same.
Work. It doesn't age the same. It doesn't work. Try something else. Colorado's doing some great stuff. Utah's doing some great stuff. There's plenty of places out west that are doing some interesting and fun things. Stop trying to make bourbon when it's 1,000,000 degrees during the day and 80 at night. Just stop it. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe vodka is your true calling in Texas.
Hey guys, they've got a good pivot opportunity right now with the hand sanitizer. So the real bad thing is,
well, there you go.
Is how many of the distilleries don't come back and start distilling? They just stay the hand sanitizer route. That's the question we were tossing around last night, because there's a few that I would vote that might be a more profitable route.
Fair enough.
Malort.
I'll buy a barrel of it right now.
Name names.
We'll do private barrel.
I was talking with my friend Allie, who is a distiller at TX Bourbon today, and they just had to postpone a major launch, their barrel proof. I'm really, really looking forward to that. She had it about in the mail for me, and it was canceled because they didn't want it out before it launched. But there's some of them that are doing their own thing. TX, I think, definitely is not trying to follow in anybody's footsteps.
That's true. Yeah, they're the real exception.
Too.
Yeah.
They're making hand sanitizer right now.
There's plenty of distilleries out there doing different things way outside of Kentucky and Tennessee and Indiana. And I really, the ones that I like the most are the ones that aren't trying to copy what's going on here. I mean, the climate's different. The corn grows differently. The wheat and rye and whatever you're putting into it grows differently. So try something different.
Or just make vodka.
Or pure ale, whatever the case may be.
I mean, I can see Tito's, stirring, the kettle. I mean, by hand each day. That's definitely the way that I see it going down. Yeah,
Handcrafted.
MGP that they get. They don't even bother making their own vodka, Tias. I
We
don't
should
know
have a
why
contest of who's had the longest perpetual bullshit story. I think that could be a contest. You know, we could start our own media award of just who's really delivered. You know, we can call it the hip waiters.
I want to be on the
I'm
show.
going on 45 years.
Yep. See, that's what I'm talking about. All you're buying into it. Yep. You're the hip waiter for this year. Yeah.
There's an awful lot of brands out there
Man.
reproducing their great
So,
granddad.
hey, there's a lot of candidates, man, you know? So would you award it to the PR firms or would you award it to the marketing people or to the distiller? You know, there you go.
It falls on the distiller.
Uh-huh.
They can always say no. If a PR firm comes back with a bullshit line, you can always say no.
Yep. What was the product you said you fought over the name? Which one?
For us,
Yeah. Which
it
one
was
was it?
Batch 2, Outer Loop Orbit.
Oh, the outer loop. That's right. You wanted to call it.
We wanted to call it. So the story behind that is finished in orange curacao gin barrels. Originally orange curacao, and then a batch of bourbon, and then gin. And I hate orange curacao finished bourbon, but we went out and smelled the barrels, and it smelled like orange tang. I guess I can say that now.
Right. I wanted to call it.
Tang.
I wanted to call it not Parker's Heritage.
I have no comment on that. But so we go out and smell. It smells like tang, and all it brings to my mind is my dad was a big history buff, loved history.
Right. Yes,
and he
I
used
remember
to
this.
tell me when I was a little kid that you know, when I was drinking tang, that became famous because John Glenn took it on the 1962 Mercury mission into outer space and drank it in orbit and made it famous. It was going out of business before then. And I said, oh, that's awesome. So years later, we have this stuff. The barrels smell like tang. I want to call it Mercury 62. And the TTB comes back to me and says, did Ford give you permission to say that you own a 1962 Mercury? I said, well, I don't own a 1962 Mercury. What the hell are you talking about? So this is from the space mission. I said, oh, great. Did NASA give you permission? Fuck.
What?
So apparently NASA's trademarked the damn Mercury missions, and you can't use them.
Wow.
Which I kind of thought that as a government agency.
I just think you need another IP lawyer who knows how to drink excessively and can look beyond these moments of indiscretion. So,
well, that's the TTB. We didn't have any say in that. We did at that point. I didn't feel like fighting them anymore.
Well, Fishburne, I have to say that you know, I love the way you're thinking, and you know, the motto that we have here at Sip Suds and Smokes is, "You can't drink all day if you don't start early." So good luck, and I'm glad you're finally getting around to catching up with us for sure. Thank those of you that have joined us live. You're welcome to chat in the chat session, and if you have any question for anybody here on the panel, we do have some other things that we're going to go over tonight. But you know, I find it it's kind of cool, you know, what everybody's, you know, choosing to do with all this free time. You know, I really find that almost as fascinating as everything else. My quest for you know, banana ice cream has continued yet again today. It's all I have to say. So, you know, so for those of you that happen to watch some of the other videocasts, I actually went to the grocery store and I took a picture of the case. I need a picture of me standing in front of this empty case of Ben and Jerry's, you know, with no Ben and Jerry's in it. I mean, seriously, of all the things you're going to hoard, that has to be one of the things you have to hoard. And I just, you know, I'm a sucker for comfort food is Chunky Monkey for me, not 30 cases of whiskey like you bees, but you know, so, you know, I really was.
Mike, I would like to take the chance to big COVID shout out to our folks at Vino in New York, who are essential, baby, liquor stores, essential business.
There you go.
We're dropping a barrel on Friday, Elijah Craig, and shipping it. So if there's people at home, you know, jonesing for a nice barrel pick, we are open for business. And thank those guys in New York. They're cranking it out, and they're troopers. So cheers to them.
Yeah, I did my part today and got out to visit a couple of breweries and drop by a liquor store as well, just to, you know, stock up, you know, anyway. But it was just good to kind of check in, you know, some of those folks. And yeah, you can really see, you know, just especially the brewers, you know, that really a lot of this is weighing on them. It's just their financial model really doesn't work, to have a lot of interruption and disruption in a highly perishable product, for the most part. They live and die every 40 days, by each product and that they produce. And their margins are just so incredibly thin that, a disruption like this it's a big deal financially for a lot of them. So, but
my heart, Beastmaster Club, we had a big Kentucky trip planned next month. We're going to do like 12 barrel picks across 6 different distilleries. So that's kind of out the window, but it seems like everybody's going to try and get creative and figure out how to do everything remotely. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. Well, it's a good transition to talking about how to do something remotely. So we're actually having a virtual tasting tonight, and I've invited all of our colleagues here to talk about their favorite bean product. So, this is really a distillery that's turned out some really amazing juice over the last 2 years. They're sitting on some of the largest stocked of some of the oldest products available in Kentucky, and some really wonderful things have been coming out of there very recently. So I just wanted to kind of invite everybody to talk about, what's something that caught your attention. There's a lot of, big candidates. There's the entire, Knob Creek, barrel pick program that we have talked about, probably quite a bit, and we'll probably, talk about that some more. There's the new Baker's 13 that came out this year. It's one of my products of the year for 2019. And I'm not going to hold this one up to the camera. I'm going to save that, But so there's a lot of great products. You have, the renewed Baker's line, the, small batch collection, itself, and Knob Creek, and you even have these Beam cast products, that are coming out as well on the Beam label. So what are you tasting? What's been your favorite Beam product that kind of caught your attention lately?
For me, I've always been on the Knob Creek single barrel picks. I think like everybody else, it's bang for your buck. It's about as good as it comes. And they're coming out 9, 10, 12, 14, 15 years these days. I still love the Knob Creek Rye single barrel picks an awful lot. You get a good barrel of that, and they're wonderful. Today, I'm actually sipping on the older bottling of Baker's. It's a batch B90-001. No idea what that means, but yeah, Baker's, they've relaunched it, but for the longest time, it was kind of the overlooked brand in their lineup, and I don't know why, because it's one of them that to me, and in terms of flavor profile, stands out the most as being the most unique outside of maybe Old Granddad or something like that. Welcome back, Carrie Ann.
Welcome back, Carrie Ann. So
I don't know where I went.
So I think the question I've had about, the Baker's line, is this the same move that Heaven Hill's done? Where they've really just they've taken, a brand off the shelf, they've shaked it and baked it a bit, and then they've thrown it back on the shelf and charge, 30-40% more for it. Do you really think that that's what's gone on, by moving to a single barrel program, keeping, even moving to age stated and moving away from, small batch, but, this thing really commands a huge, price jump from the product you have in your hand, to this. It's just crazy. It's almost twice the price, at least.
It's interesting to me because I don't know that it's so much of what Heaven Hill did is they took stuff off the shelf that was wildly popular in the markets that it was on, took it away from people, and then relaunched it in different markets, which essentially is basically like a big old middle finger to Kentucky and some other areas. But what Beam did is they took something that just kind of was always there and never really, did Baker's ever have any traction anywhere? Was that ever a thing? I don't know. Aside from hardcore fans, they probably were. And
I think the same thing could be said for, 6 Year, white label. It was only available in, Kentucky. That's kind of the comparison, move that I'm thinking of. So,
yeah.
Pops, what do you think?
When it first came out, that everybody wanted the whole collection. And then it's been kind of hit or miss for who wanted which of those products. And Knob Creek's obviously been the one that's kind of sort of with the rest.
Yeah, is that they just really didn't know what to do with the small batch collection, and they finally went, "Oh, that's a hidden gem. We should work on that."
Yeah,
I think, when you look at any of the movies, you look at Heaven Hill, and while it definitely was interpreted as a middle finger, and that was definitely one of the ones that when that first happened, it's like, what the hell's going on? But when you step back and think about the reality of when they had a product like that, they had agreements in place with distributors, that nature that locked them into not being able to change it sooner, right? So when they finally decided to make a change, because like everyone else, their things are underpriced for where the market's going. So when they get the opportunity to make a change, they've got to make a big enough change to make it worth it financially, right? And unfortunately, that forces them into making some key decisions. So I think there's always that tension between us as the drinkers and what we want, and then what makes sense for a business. So when you look at that across to the beam spectrum, right? How do they keep taking what they have as their core lineup and extracting more value from it, right? How do they serve the entry level market, the middle, the premium levels? And the bakers became one of those ones to do that, right? Because as Bill said, it's not something that people really had a lot of traction around anywhere. So in one way, they were able to take a product that wasn't going to piss a lot of people off, improve it from a product perspective, and then release it out and command a price. Is it too much? Well, that's in the eye of the buyer, right? Their taste buds, but it's definitely the same move. How do we capitalize an underappreciated asset and do it in a way that will piss off the least amount of people, knowing that someone's going to get pissed off?
Yeah. So
is Baker's 107 gone? Is that the story?
Is 107 gone? Is that what you said, Jeff?
it's an 8-year now, right?
Yeah.
More expensive.
Just the standard Bakers you get at a bar. Is that product no more? I wasn't aware.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So both bakers. So the bakers used to be a 7-year small batch, and they've replaced it with a age stated 7-year and
Isn't it 8 now?
sorry, 8. Thank you.
Yeah.
8-year and 13 age stated, and they moved to single barrel away from small batch, and then jacked the price up by
That's too
40
bad. I would always buy that at a bar. That the Baker's small batch. That's a great drink.
I can almost
How
hear
is
them
this-
And I tried the
disinviting me for
Baker's
the next
7. It was
release of
not,
Legion.
not very good. But
How is this any different though from what we had with Booker's? Booker's was a shelf turd. I mean, you couldn't sell it, and then they said, "Hey, guess what? We're jacking up the price $30," and all of a sudden it was the hottest thing on the market.
Yeah, there you go.
Now they can't sell it anymore.
Beast, what's the beam
I was
product?
a huge consumer of Booker's that in the early 90s when that stuff came out. I was fairly old enough to drink, but Booker's was kind of my go-to because I started out drinking Turks 101, so I needed something a little more oomph once I was old enough to actually drink it. Booker's was the natural progression.
totally.
So, Beast,
Mike,
what's your favorite beam product here?
We did two of the 14-year barrels last year. We called it double barrel, and we had on one of them a hunter with double barrel, and then on the other, you had to buy the other bottle to see the end of the picture, which was a terrified beaver about to get blown into pieces. And they were just incredible. And so, I mean, I told them I'd buy as many as I could get this year, which was 3. So I got 3 15 years coming. And this year we're doing, we're turning the beaver into a superhero called Barrel Beaver. And he's got this enemy called Master Blender who tries to steal all the single barrels and blend them into something. And so we're doing a 3-part Barrel Beaver versus Master Blender thing. The first one I think comes out in 2 weeks. That's a 15-year. I mean, come on, 15-year, 120 proof single barrel bourbon for under, what is it, $80, $90, something like that. I mean, it's unheard of. It's crazy. I always tell people if you can get cask strength, good, single cask bourbon for $10 a year, you're doing great. So normally that product would be, I mean, I'd be happy to sell that at $120 or something like that.
So
and
for those of you
yummy.
that
So I'm super excited about getting that.
So for those of you that may not know, so Beast is talking about the Knob Creek Barrel Pick program, And there's an awful lot of a broad range of age statements, on a lot of those products. And in fact, Bill and I were chatting, in the backstage, before we went live here, that there's a lot of really great 9-year, Knob Creek that we've had. In fact, some of the better ones that we've had, in blind tastings, we've at the Whiskey House in Nashville, we've probably done blind tastings on, I don't know, probably 60, different barrels of Knob Creek easily. There you go. There's your label.
I love it.
Yep, love it.
Love
There
it.
it is.
It looks like something Jody would do, doesn't it,
Yeah,
Carrie?
A superhero.
It does. I think when we closed the Whiskey down, we still had that blind of 9 Knob Creeks out there. That was our most recent blind there.
Yeah.
All Knob Creek picks are not created equal.
That's for sure.
Big right. I mean, some of those 15-year-olds sound. I mean, they taste like you're chewing on a wet canoe. I mean, some of them are way over oaked and old. Some of them are just amazing. It's the same with the 9-year. I see Bill Scott on the chat is drinking our first ModernThrist pick, and we got lucky that we were doing it with a big store up in Northern Kentucky, the Party Source. So they rolled out 7 barrels for us because we were picking 2 of them, one for them, one for us. We got lucky and got a 9-year that was just amazing. I mean, it's probably still one of the top 2 or 3 Knob Creek private picks I've ever had. It's only 9 years old. And I've had a couple of 14, 15. I've got a 14-year-old right here that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, Bill and I were talking about what, this process has actually changed and evolved over time, the barrel pick program. And so they actually send you this really cool box. I mean, it's really pretty amazing. It's all tricked up, and, they give you 3 they give you 3 bottles in this thing and some things to put your tasting notes on and to pick from one of those 3 samples. So I don't know, what are they, 1-pint samples, I think, that they send you now out of each of the barrels. And I think for those of us that, do barrel picks on a regular basis, it's like, wow, this is a dwarf, of a process. I mean, you're used to walking in and, maybe tasting through 8, 10, 12 different barrels and drill and fill, for a couple hours, through a lot of warehouses.
They give you the pint of limestone water with it.
Yeah, that's true. They actually send you the cut water now too, which I think is funny. So I'm like, wow, a whole bottle of RO. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't know where I could possibly find that. But the, it's interesting how, they've really stepped up a lot of their game, for the Knob Creek, barrel pick program. It used to be that you could only go through that if you went, there, physically through the process. And now they've actually moved this into not just, shipping the bottles, but really kind of branded this whole thing as the, Knob Creek bourbon experience, so to speak. And, I do think that there are a lot of retailers that are taking advantage. One thing I really love about this barrel pick program is the end cap pieces that they create and the map of where that barrel was in that rick house. I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's one huge value add. Yeah, I think that really.
Is it a value add? I mean, does it tell you anything if you don't know what it is to tell you? There it is. It's like when you get your Cabbage Patch doll out of the Cabbage Patch.
So you're saying having the born on date and today on this day your Cabbage Patch doll, you're saying having all that rich history just really doesn't matter when it comes to picking whiskey. I like that. It's funny.
I think it's cool. Carrie Ann, I think it's cool because if you're just picking one, it doesn't matter that much. But if you're comparing, I mean, the Knob Creek single barrel program, you can find hundreds of them, and a lot of retailers will tell you exactly where that was aged. It's neat, just like with Four Roses. I mean, people have their favorite
Four Roses, yeah.
their favorite rows and areas of them in the St. Heaven Hill. My God, you find a Deetsville, Heaven Hill, and people go nuts. So I love it. I mean, more information you can give me, the better.
Jeff, what's the beam product?
I didn't actually adopt that African child that I got a picture of. Come on.
Okay, I'm gonna start off and say that I've had some incredible knob picks. They're some of my favorite. That's not what I went with tonight. I went with with distiller's cut.
You went with
I
one of
love this
the
stuff.
cast strength
This was-
distiller cuts. That's interesting. Wow.
Which one is that?
Yeah,
I don't know
they're-
that that's cask strength. That's 100 proof.
Well, yeah.
But that was my 2018 budget whiskey of the year, and I mean it's just it's one of my favorites. It's something I keep on my shelf all the time. And out here in Wisconsin, at least right now, they're selling it for $10 a bottle.
I would definitely say that's a
I'm getting,
really great buy.
Yeah.
What
I'm
were you
getting
gonna
a
say,
bunch of text messages from Shem and Paducah Bourbon Society and Bottle and Bob saying he does not believe it is a value add. Blowing me up over here. And out to Shem.
Shem, why don't you just hop on the chat window and share that, with everybody, that moment? Because I believe that we could bring back the Cabbage Back, birth certificate along with the barrel of Knob Creek,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeff, I'm going to join you in a little distiller's cut. I want to taste along with you. I haven't had this in ages.
Sweet. Respect the bottom shelf.
Yeah. I agree, and
Yeah,
and
I was looking for that Prohibition bottle, and I couldn't find it over here today, but I like that one too for the lower end Jim Beam.
I've got that too. That's also a great bottle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a great representation of, and it's interesting. I kind of dragged, a bit of some Heaven Hill, branding and marketing into the conversation, but if anything, that's one of the things that I really like about, at least those two distilleries is you can really find the extensibility of a lot of their brands at multiple price points. And I don't know that it's really such a grand compromise in quality, between those various brands. I mean, that director's cut is a solid $10, bottle that you have right there all day long.
Yeah, I love it. They say it's limited edition, and I'm hoping it never goes away.
Yeah. Well, they just jacked it up to $28, a pint. So there you go.
There you go.
And they made it 105 proof.
That makes it better.
And it's not available in Kentucky anymore.
There you go. You're right. Yeah. We could do this all
I'm
day
in
long.
Wisconsin. I don't care.
Genius. Pops, what's one of your favorite Beam products?
Well, when you put that out in the email, I was had a temporary moment of panic because, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying about the stuff, but it's funny. I don't really go out and buy a lot of Beam products. So when I went to my shelf, I didn't have a whole hell of a lot. So I brought out, which was one of my favorite all times, was the Booker's 25th.
Oh, wow.
So
Jeez.
The rye.
you still have some of that left, right?
Poor Pops, not a whole lot of Beam stuff there. I got to sink to drinking that 25th.
Yeah, I just had, was this or the Jim Beam Fire?
Are you throwing that over your left shoulder or what?
So I've got that, but from a lower cost perspective, I've always liked, surprisingly, I like the Jim Beam Double Oak.
I agree.
Yeah.
As well. And it's funny. It's kind of interesting. I don't like the regular Jim Beam very much. Jim Beam always to me had a very earthy profile to it. So the Double Oak kind of neutralized that for me. I really enjoyed that. And it's kind of the same thing when I would drink Woodford. Never really cared for Woodford Reserve. But I could drink the Woodford Double Oak all the time.
I think there's a wide range of people. You either like Double Oaked or you don't. I used to not like it, but I think I've decided I like it now. I like Jim Beam Double Oaked a lot more than Jim Beam. My thing has always been if Jim Beam makes it, if it says Jim Beam on the bottle, I typically don't like it.
Yeah. Right.
The other ones I typically like it.
Is that open, Mike?
But yeah, I mean Woodford's the
That
same.
bottle open. If it's not, you got to open it right now.
It is open. I'm drinking it.
What you showing us
Yeah,
there?
we have a rule on this show: no
I'm
steel bottles.
pouring in advance. I want to savor this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Hashtag dick sling.
no, the last time I
right.
had this open, I had it with you, Carrie Ann. I haven't even touched it since then. So,
All right.
it was really good
Well,
that day.
that brings me to my favorite
There
Beam
you
product.
go.
Because one over the other, I could tell you for the price point, I'll take the cask strength rye all day, every day. I've
Wow.
loved it when it came out.
Wow.
I've loved the second editions of it. I love it, love it, love it.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. The only thing I'll say is that
And I can go and buy it, and it doesn't come in that bottle.
My only complaint is that the single barrel Knob Creek ryes are only a few percent lower in alcohol and about half the cost. But I mean, dollars aside, that Knob Creek cast strength rye is a great whiskey.
Yeah, and again, I really think it's showing the extensibility of their mash bills, over a broad range of brands and price points as well. And yeah, I mean, the first time that somebody said, "Oh well, Beam's really making great rye," I was like, "Yeah, sure," but definitely when this came out, it caught everybody's attention, and I think what's interesting is, that Freddie really kind of, adopted a lot of the rye program, right behind Fred. And that's kind of his, personal thing that, he shared that that really is going to be his main product line for a lot of the things that he's doing at Beam will be on the rye mash bill.
I like the fact that Freddie's willing to kind of push some boundaries. Beam is, if you think about it, they haven't exactly. I don't want to say that they haven't been on the forefront of stuff, because Booker's was kind of ahead of its time, for gosh sakes. But the small batch program was ahead of its time. But there was a long period where they didn't really push a lot of boundaries, and then you have Freddie coming along. He's like a mad scientist out there, seeing what works and what doesn't work, and I love it.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Nobody picks
Little Book stuff is fun.
Book. Yeah, nobody picked Little Book to talk about. And Batch 3, was just phenomenal last year. Made a lot of best of lists, made our best of list. Really a fantastic product. And I
really like Batch 2. I mean, there's a lot I think that they're doing fun stuff, and it's about time that we had some shaking up over there. Everything else has been kind of more of the same in a different label, different proof maybe, but I think that allowing him to go with all these blends and kind of just letting him loose has been fun. And it's not all going to be amazing, but you don't find the cool stuff without going through some of the crap.
I'm just really impressed that no one in this group tried to do an end around and pulled a Maker's Mark out when you asked us all to bring a Beam.
Yeah, no one.
I had one ready because I really love this cast strength.
Cast strength is great. Some of the
seems to be a theme. Love.
Hey,
is that Bob or Brent?
Mike trying to swing the Big Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. So it's somebody from a vast conspiracy, with that moniker,
That could be any one of 100 people.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll throw your shoulder out, Mike.
I'm sure it's Bob.
He doesn't smile.
Yes, but he is capable of wearing enough makeup where it appears like he's smiling. So, it's the reason why we're all on a radio show. I can't wear this ascot all day long. There's only so many times a year I can put it on. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation we had about the Beam products. And, I think to polish this off, I actually did bring the first edition of the Booker's Rye out. Really fabulous product. I just every time I've gone back to this, it just reminds me a lot of people just did not think that rye was a viable product, financially or from a point of quality. And I think this and there have been a lot of great products, that are rye. I love the Owl, rye batch 1.
That was a great whiskey.
That was just a really, fabulous product. And, I've had several bottles of that. I haven't had several bottles of this, of the Booker's Rye, but it was really fabulous. My sips rating for the Booker's Rye, is batch 1 is definitely a 5 all the way. So
it's as close to a perfect rye as I've tasted.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, really great.
Absolutely.
And I really hope that Freddie comes back around and tries to top that moment for sure. Well, I really appreciate those of you that have joined us for this live video cast here. And if you have questions for our panel, just fire away. Your comments, such as those from the Peanut Gallery, have been highlighted here occasionally. That
you're getting called out a lot for the Malort thing. There's a lot of Malort going on over here.
So this is definitely Bob, since he definitely knows that lawyers don't smile. So, But if you have any other questions, let us know. We'll get around to some of those as well. Oh, here's one right here. Is the Booker's is the best rye of the last decade or not? Wow.
Yes.
That was pretty quick, Bill.
I'll say it. There's been a few
Mike,
that
since
really
most people can't get it in their markets, I don't think we should be talking about it.
Well, not on this thing. So,
isn't that what the whole point of these things are? We talk about things that no one else can get because we're
no. But so
I put
I had like 4 ounces of that
best
Booker.
rye the last decade or not?
I'd put Alabatch 1 up against it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good choice.
Put what up against it?
Kentucky Alabatch 1.
I'm definitely thinking of some Willet ryes that I had that were, definitely up there. As probably some of the best ryes. I
have a hard time comparing it to single barrels because I had a lot of those old Scout ryes that were 7, 8, 9 years old that were amazing.
Yeah.
But those are single barrels, and some of them were just okay.
I have one here that's 12 years old that is delicious.
Oh, that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
That is interesting. That the thing that didn't jump to our mind was somebody saying well
MGP,
MGP's been producing the best rye for a long time.
They make the best rye in America outside of a few kind of standout releases from some of the Kentucky places. In my mind,
yeah.
And they put out stuff. People use their 2-3-year-old stuff all the time that tastes fine at 2 and 3 years old. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see Peerless. It tastes Peerless at like 7 or 8 years old, but
right.
Well, great question, and I'm sorry I forgot to put my phone on silence here before we hopped
somebody
on.
wants to put 2016 Andy in the category.
An
That's
MGP
fair.
16. Okay. So here's one.
Handy 16.
Oh, a handy.
That's Troy. He wants to put the 2016 handy up.
Yeah, I can say definitely from the 05 handy. Yeah, good choice. 2016 handy, I agree. Probably in the top 5. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I mean, that's one of the few things that would actually stand up to a Booker's is a one-off release here and there of handy in the antique collection. Here and there, some barrels of Willet. Here and there, some of the bottlings of Old Scout. But by and large, there's not been a release of the size of Booker's that really tops it outside of handy, right? I mean, I can't think. I mean, I loved Al 1, so I mean, I put that in my top 10 too.
I'm really trying to think of a really great blind tasting rye, that would answer this question that anybody's done, and I'm just sitting here drawing a blank. Maybe that's the content, opportunity for all of us, in the next year is we should have the most epic, rye blind tasting, to answer some of the question. Who's really bringing it?
We did a
like that idea.
Year tasting this year, and I'll tell you that 8-year Parker's jar rye was really nice. I really like that. The Turkey Cornerstone was pretty good.
Yep.
But the one that blew them all away was
these are all really great candidates.
MGP
yeah,
Redemption 10-year.
Yeah.
Good call on Cornerstone. Can't believe that's what.
But did you keep this just within a release year, or just like
this year? Well, 19 we did last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, that MGP Redemption 10 killed them all. That was the best by far. Some of that MGP stuff is pretty good. You got to give it to them.
They make a good whiskey. They do. A lot of people make a mistake by watering it down and putting it out too early, but man, you do it right. It's good stuff.
Well,
Yes, Bill.
and then there's this. We should have just invited him, to join us on here, and that way, come on this side of the microphone.
Bob, hang on 1 second, Bob. I got an answer to that.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I cannot.
Please keep your pants on.
I'm leaving.
Hang on a second. Let me get the mute button ready. So
Nothing good is going to come of this.
I would definitely
Bob,
say so.
I have a Dollar General special of Fireball.
Dollar General sells alcohol?
Sure they do. You see the label, right?
Chug it.
So
Oh,
they have the best single barrel of Fireball.
Yeah.
Buy it now.
Is that the Thursday or the Wednesday single barrel? I like Thursday because they stir clockwise as opposed to counterclockwise.
So do you guys think rye is the next boom? I mean, we all know it's growing pretty significantly, and bourbon has had kind of a big run here. Do we all think where do you think rye's going here?
I think 2 words.
Rye's been up 20% year over year for the last 3 years.
Yep.
Can
market share and margin, yes, are going.
Can I tell a story though about rye though? I think you guys might have been with me on the tour. We were there, and somebody was talking. We were at Heaven Hill with Denny Potter, and some guy was talking about how much rye his company was making, and Denny turned to him and said, "Boy, I make rye one day a month, and I spill more rye on that day than you make in a year." He drank down. So I mean, rye's growing a lot, but it's still so small compared to bourbon in the U.S. in overall markets. Is it going to? I mean, how big do we think it's going to get? That's kind of my question.
Well, I don't think it's going to be on par in terms of market share, with bourbon, just because I think it's well entrenched. But is it going to go from having, say, 3% market share to 7 or 8%? Yes, I think the quality, is there, and the wide variety. I mean, you really have, rye's moving from all the way, from those ADL, style, very abrasive, Canadian rye that feel like, sandpaper, to these incredibly, floral bombs that are coming out from MGP and Willet, both. So I think that wide range of the grain itself and what is being put on the shelf, I think is going to create enough general interest. Great question, though. Anybody else, Pops?
Yeah, I mean, I think
there's just no supply, though. I mean, where is it?
Well,
it's all sitting in Indiana.
I think you're right that the market share will grow, but I think the big thing, at least, from when I go out and do a lot of tastings with people and have conversations, is people who aren't really, really into whiskey. They may drink a lot of whiskey and drink a lot of bourbon, but they don't know a lot. They always have this kind of fear of the unknown when it comes to rye. They'll say, "Oh, I have rye in a cocktail," but they don't buy a lot of rye and drink a lot of rye. For them, it can be left to cocktails. So I think there has to be a lot of consumer behavioral shift in education for it to really explode. In that sense, I think it'll be a continue to grow, as a benefit of cocktail programs and things like that. But if they want to really grow it much larger than that, there's going to have to be a shift in kind of consumer perception of it, because people are so well entrenched in sort of bourbon versus rye from a take-home perspective.
I think
I don't know. I would gladly swap out 50% of my bourbon for rye if I could find it.
Oh,
7 or 8 years. It's just not
Interesting.
there.
Wow.
Where can you get it?
Yeah.
We've got our first rye at 4 coming out this year, 7 years old, and then we'll do next year at 8, and then next year at 9. So we're hoping all right. Hoping there's still a market for it.
I don't think the market's going anywhere. As far as going away, it's here to stay.
Yeah, I made a little movie a few years ago, and Jimmy Russell was like, "Nobody told me rye was going to be a thing." So I think that's 5 years ago now that he said that. Hey, that's it. Just on cue. Thanks, Bill.
I got you.
I'll build a star in that, so that's why you showed it.
That's my acting debut.
Jimmy doesn't like rye, and Eddie doesn't like rye that much either. But Bruce loves rye.
Ramping up production, so we haven't seen the rye that people started making yet. We haven't even scratched the surface of where rye is going to be, and so obviously when it starts coming out, when people really have surplus, when it starts hitting shelves, the marketing is going to come along with it. So I think that naturally we have decided we like rye as a country all of a sudden, but what's going to happen when they actually start pushing it because they have enough to put it in the bottle is going to be a whole new surge in the category. I love it and I can't wait.
I think it's interesting that
I'll drink all of it.
It's also not going to be a Kentucky style rye that's going to take the nation for the most part. It's going to be that 95.5 mash bill, that Indiana rye, because that's in everything. If people are liking rye, that's what they're drinking.
Definitely.
They're not getting that Booker's. They're not getting much of the
Yeah.
Kentucky stuff. They're getting MGP everywhere.
Is there
Definitely
an
an
opportunity,
imprinted taste, profile for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, though. Where's the growth going to come from? Because if all of us who are enjoying right now and are used to that, we're not going to start drinking 200 more bottles a person, right? It's got to come from the general market who doesn't have an entrenched flavor perspective. So with Carrie Ann's perspective of like when the rye's ready and they start pushing it, I think it's a whole new ball game at that point. So I think it's anybody's game to win.
I think we should sell it back to the Canadians to teach them what real rye should taste like.
Yes.
Show you.
Oh yeah.
Banned once again. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Your passport or your visa to Canada has just been revoked.
No hockey for you.
Hey,
Hey, we got about 5 minutes left here, and I had one quick question, and I'll just ask a couple of you to chime in. Who do you think's going to have the next great store pick program?
Old Ford.
With Jeff.
Who do I think the next great store pick is?
I know.
Go for it, because I have no idea.
MGP is about to roll out their single barrel selection, and it's going to blow the fuck up. It is going to be everywhere on every shelf in every store.
And I have done some Remus picks, and that's good.
I feel reamed already. I'm sorry, Remus already.
Yeah, we picked 3 barrels a couple weeks ago. So
sorry, Freudian
It's going to
slip.
be everywhere.
Yeah, no, we did some picking of some Remus barrels too, and it's excellent.
Yeah.
And it's at a good price point too.
Beast, I know you're knee deep in barrel pick program. Is there anybody that's new on your radar that you're looking forward to a new barrel pick program over this next year?
I think it's the golden year for Tennessee. This is Butcher's from, and I don't know if you could see that. It's 145.2 proof.
Yeah,
that's the lowest. That's the lowest proof of 5 barrels we just bought from them.
damn.
Topping out about 149, and it's delicious. We're going crazy on it. So I think the Dickel this year is going to be what MGP. Everybody's clamoring to buy those MGP store picks from last year and the year before. I think that's going to be the Tennessee picks from this year.
Interesting.
Bill, I know that you're always on the hunt of seeing who you're going to be competing against. Who's going to have the next big store pick program in your
I think this Old Forester program that's launching, where they're going to do barrel proof, I think it's going to just, it's going to blow people out of the water.
I think that it's definitely going to be. I think the whole thing they've done on the Jack side of, the house with the Jack single barrel cask program.
Yeah, that's
really. I think it's just really. It shook the beast, and I think they definitely said, gee, we should try this with some other brands. So
yeah, I agree.
I think it'll be very
Now
exciting.
They have a place they can actually take people to do a barrel pick. That was their problem before.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've really enjoyed, chatting with all of you once again. It's been a lovely evening here. It's a great way to pass our time in the middle of self-isolation. And I really enjoyed our conversation always.
Cheers.
Hopefully, when we get beyond this moment, maybe we'll do this a little bit more often, everybody. So I miss the conversation, that we're all talking about sometimes at the same time, sometimes not at the same time. So I love to hear everybody's opinion. So thanks for being here tonight. Bill, tell everybody where they can reach you at Modern Thirst.
You can find me at ModernThrist.com, and we're at modern_thirst on Twitter. And I think it's ModernThrist or something like that on Instagram. I'm terrible at social media. Find us at modernthirst.com.
Yep. Bill's also part of the key team with Foregate, and has some really exciting products that's going to be coming out in the future. If you want to check out our review on Sip, Suds, and Smokes about Foregate, we just came out a couple of weeks ago with Carrie Ann and I sitting around. So
batch 6, that'll be out here in a month or so.
Another foundation, right? I think that's what you said.
No, this is Calvin Collaboration 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This was a 12-year-old whiskey, Kentucky straight bourbon, aged in cognac barrels and dark rum barrels.
Oh, there you
But I
go.
can't remember getting my sample of that, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my sample is about the same size as that bottle. It'll fit fine right here on my table the same way. Pops, thanks for joining us from Bourbon and Banter. Tell everybody where they can reach you at.
Absolutely. So you can find us at bourbonbanter.com, and we keep it simple on social media. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, it's all just whatever / Bourbon Banter. Glad to have you join us. And I'm going to do a quick plug. We've got Four Roses single barrel dropping tomorrow. I
saw that. The Constant Gardener, our very good friend and colleague, has been immortalized on a sticker. Wow.
That's right.
I can almost feel the value of that dropping right through the bottom.
How do we get one of those?
We're going to have to enlarge all of our doorways for him to fit through.
So
I just felt my entire Four Roses collection cut in half.
Pops, how do we get one of those?
Yeah, so here's the deal. If you go to bourbonbanter.com and on the homepage, make sure you sign up for our email list at 7:45 a.m. tomorrow, Central Time. An email will go out with the details, a link to buy it online, as well as time that it'll go live. If you're in a state where you can't get it, you can tell them to buy it and hold it and get it to me, and I'll work with you to get it shipped to you. So if I know you, this isn't a fight for Bill, that is. Anybody else in the state. For everyone else, good luck getting it. They're going to go fast.
Put Mike and I on your list.
What?
We can't ship here. I said, put Mike and I on your list because we can't ship here anymore.
That's right. Well, you guys reserve a bottle. I'll get it to you.
Sounds great. Our very good friend, Dan Gardner, is the brand ambassador for Four Roses, and he's the one that's been immortalized on the side of that bottle on his sticker. So thanks, Pops. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
Beast, thanks for joining us tonight. You got a lot going on between this and the Beastmaster Club. Tell everybody how they can reach you.
Yeah, anytime, Mike. Thanks for setting it up. It's great talking to you guys. Nice to see some familiar faces. Beastmasters Club is free to join, beastmastersclub.com. We do a barrel every 2 weeks, every week around the holidays. We got, like I said, 3 Knob Creeks coming on Friday. Another Elijah Craig. We're doing a kind of a Spinal Tap series called the Smell the. So Smell came out a few weeks ago. The comes out on Friday, and then you can all wait with bated breath for what the third one's going to be called. And we got these 3 Knob Creeks coming. We actually did our own label called Major Beaver. It's 5 barrels of hazmat cast strength Tennessee 12-year, and we got a lot of treats coming.
What were your other 3 choices?
Nice beaver.
Well, we just did a 3-part Beaver Jones Indiana Jones series here. This is
Beaver has some overtone and odor to it. It's just really,
odor.
It's just gonna, this stuff is just gonna flow out naturally all day long. I thought we'd just get you ready for it all, Beast. So because we're gonna be the ones saying these things.
Anyway, so sign up. The barrels go quick. They used to go, every Friday afternoon, and they go in an hour or two.
Yeah.
So, but it's free to join, and keep on keeping on. We have podcasts. We were going to try to do some live stuff remotely. Usually, we do it from the headquarters in New York, but we're going to try and keep that going. So yeah, thanks again, Mike. Appreciate it. Great to see y'all.
Yeah, you bet. Listen, if you didn't know if that was a questionable marketing moment, it was. So.
That's what we shoot for. Questionable marketing. That's on my business card.
There you go. It's basically our entire, persona here. Jeff, thank you for joining us from Whiskeyfellow. Where can we catch up with you?
You can go to my blog at reviews.whiskeyfellow.net. I'm on Facebook as The Whiskeyfellow, and there is an E in whiskey. I am on Instagram and Twitter as Whiskeyfellow. You can also find me at Bourbon and Banter.
Thanks. And I'm just glad that Luke Castle didn't join us. That's all I have to say. So, bands. after a lost the septic blind tasting to him, heads up, it's just never happening. I'm just never going to give Luke any, even an inch, on anything. So, Carrie Ann from Straight Up 615, thank you for joining us. Tell us how we can reach out to you.
1-800.
Bring a credit card.
Wear a bra.
Yeah, so straightup615.com, Facebook. Are you okay, Joe? Facebook, Twitter,
Another
Instagram, all the places.
You broke Jeff.
Happens a lot. Sorry, Carrie.
We'll put it back together.
Jeff's very high maintenance.
Yes, I am.
Tell you what, I haven't put on a bra and or makeup since Wednesday last week when we did this. So if you don't keep doing this,
well, there you go. You have a goal for next week now. Well, Carrie Ann joins me on Sip, Suds, and Smokes. It is a weekly podcast that is widely available on satellite, terrestrial radio, and a podcast. You can reach us anywhere at www.sipsudsandsmokes.com, or just yell into your phone, tell that bitch, play Sips, Suds, and Smokes into your phone, and we'll be right there as well. Hey, thank you all for joining us tonight for this great video cast. Wherever you are, I'm going to ask you to keep on sipping.
Cheers.
Cheers.